honestly never thought that I would be making a video like this, but I feel like I've come to a point in my life where I just can't keep doing what I'm doing, and I don't want to go through this alone anymore, because I know that there are a lot of other women that are going through something similar that I'm going through, and I'm just tired of living a lie. I'm tired of posting videos and posting photos and having people think that I have this perfect life and that I'm happy and that everything is wonderful when it's not. For the last 2.5 years, I have been a prisoner in my own body and in my own mind. I've suffered from severe depression. There have been days I just didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything, see anyone, speak to anyone. I just can't live like this anymore. 2.5 years ago, my husband and I decided to try for a family, and we got pregnant right away. And it was the most happiest time of my life. We were so excited. And I had everything, every symptom. I had morning sickness, food aversions. And at 6 weeks I went in for an ultrasound, and they told me that I would need to come back because they couldn't pick up the heartbeat. They said that it's probably normal because it's still too early. So I came back at 8 weeks, and they told me that there was no heartbeat, and they diagnosed me with a blighted ovum. They said that I would miscarry. I couldn't believe it at the time, because you just never think that something like this could happen to you. And I'm a very realistic person. I know that nothing in life is guaranteed, and I knew that there was a chance that it wouldn't work out. But I felt everything. I felt all the symptoms. And I felt pregnant. And I just didn't want to believe it. So I went to 3 different ultrasound clinics after that to have it confirmed. And then at 10 weeks I started to miscarry naturally, which is the most unbearable thing that any woman can go through. And if anyone who's watching this and who's been through that, I'm so sorry. I know what it's like. I know that it was early, but I still felt that connection, and I felt that bond with my baby. And just to have that confirmed that it didn't work through these agonizing contractions and everything, that just... the first day or 2 were the worst, and then I thought it was over, but I was continuing to bleed for a while after that, at least for a week, and it wouldn't stop. So I went to a women's hospital, and they did an ultrasound there, and they said that there was still some tissue remaining. So they told me that I could take this pill for 2 days and it would help get rid of all of the remaining tissue. So I did that. And I had such a bad reaction to it that I ended up bleeding out in public. And I had to go to the emergency, and I was stuck in emergency for 2 days on bed rest, no food, no water, no nothing, just an IV drip, waiting until I could have my D&C. So that was my first experience with pregnancy. So I had my D&C in September of 2016. My husband and I decided to take a few months break, and we decided that we would try to conceive again naturally. And we were trying on and off for, I don't know, like 6 months, and it just wasn't happening. I don't know, maybe because of my fear, because of my depression, I don't know. So we decided to go to a fertility clinic here in Toronto. We did that the summer of 2017, and they did a bunch of tests and analysis. Our genetics were fine, or they were compatible, and they didn't see any serious issues with either myself or my husband. They did find some physical issues with me, but those were fixable. So they found out that I have a genetic predisposition to have clotting, so that could have been one of the reasons why I had the miscarriage. So they wanted me to go on baby aspirin to thin out my blood. They also found polyps in my uterus, and they also found that my uterus had a dip at the top, which was making the size of my uterus much smaller than an average woman's uterus. I also had, at the time, a deviated septum, and I had it confirmed by 3 other doctors, and I asked my fertility doctor what he thought about it, and he said it's definitely something that he wanted me to fix before I would try to get pregnant again, because it would limit the amount of oxygen that would go to the baby. So that October, I had 2 surgeries. In the beginning of October of 2017, I had surgery to remove the polyps in my uterus. And then at the end of October 2017, I had a surgery to correct my deviated septum. I gave myself a little bit of time to heal from my surgeries, and in December 2017, we decided to try to conceive again with the clinic. And we had a medicated assistance, which means that I was given drugs and hormones to help normalize my cycle and help promote a healthy pregnancy and sustain a healthy pregnancy and help with conception and all of that. And if any of you have ever been through that, you know how not only time-consuming it is, but it's very emotionally and physically taxing. So we did that, and we did that for 3 cycles. Out of those 3 cycles, I had 2 chemical pregnancies, which means that the embryo would attach to my uterus, and then it would detach, and I don't know why. And those 3 months were very difficult for me. So I told my husband I can't do this anymore, and I want a referral to an IVF clinic. So we got a referral from our fertility doctor to an IVF clinic in Toronto, and we started again with the analysis and the tests. My fertility doctor at the IVF clinic determined that that dip in my uterus was getting in the way of anything growing in there, and he thought that I would have to get another surgery to get it fixed. So we did that. I had it fixed earlier this year in 2018. Then we started with the retrieval process, and the retrieval process is basically trying to collect as many eggs from the woman as possible to get as many healthy embryos at the end of the retrieval process, so that you have as many chances as possible to conceive with 1 round of IVF. I went through the retrieval process, which is another very, very difficult, grueling process emotionally and physically. It was injecting myself with hormones every single day, taking drugs, all of that. Thankfully, we had a lot of healthy eggs retrieved. After the eggs were retrieved, they were fertilized, and we had to wait until they matured and got to a certain stage. I think it's called like the blastocyst phase or whatever. And luckily we had a lot that made it to that stage. After that point, we decided to do PGS testing, which is genetic testing on the embryos, because we thought that maybe one of the reasons why it wasn't working was because there was something wrong genetically with the embryos. And out of 7 embryos that made it to blastocyst phase, 5 came back from PGS normal. That just goes to show that there's nothing wrong with our genetics, with our embryos. For the most part, they are healthy. After that, I decided to take 2 weeks off after the retrieval, because my body just needed to recuperate, and I needed to just make sure that I was in a really positive emotional and mental state, because for me this has been the craziest roller coaster I've ever been on, and I just wanted to make sure that I gave every single embryo as much positivity and the best chance possible. So I think I started my first IVF cycle sometime in September or maybe early October. The IVF process itself is very difficult because, again, you're taking all these drugs and injecting yourself with hormones, and you're just in pain and discomfort all the time. And then they transfer the embryo. They tell you to wait 12 days before coming back for a pregnancy test. And the first cycle, I had all of the pregnancy symptoms, and I had no idea that a lot of these drugs that they're giving you can really emulate pregnancy symptoms, like 1 for 1. So I was so optimistic and so positive that I was pregnant, and I wasn't. It didn't work, and I was devastated. My husband and I decided that we would try again. I waited for my period, and as soon as I got my period, I went back to the clinic and we started our second round of IVF. And this time I went in with the mindset that whatever happens, happens. If I don't think too much of the symptoms, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it's just not meant to be. And I wasn't paying too much attention to the symptoms this cycle, which is the cycle that I just went through. And I was so sure that it didn't work. I felt like I was gonna get my period. I felt symptoms, but I thought that they were probably just the drugs and nothing else, and was ready to accept the fact that it didn't work. So on Saturday, today is Tuesday, December the 4th. On Saturday, I get a call from the clinic and the nurse tells me that I'm pregnant, and I was in shock. I asked her, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yes. Your HCG was 114. That's amazing." I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. She told me that it's a good thing and that they wanted me to come back on Monday, which was yesterday, to do a repeat blood test, make sure that my HCG level was going up, because every 48 to 72 hours it's supposed to double. So the weekend, my husband and I were just so happy and in shock. We just couldn't believe it. And we told our parents, because obviously our parents knew that we were going through IVF and we were going through this difficult time, and they were so happy for us too. And then I went in on Monday morning to do my blood work. Call me in the afternoon, and the nurse tells me that my HCG is going down and that she's so sorry, but it's unlikely that it's going to go back up. I just feel like this is some kind of sick joke. I don't know why this is happening. I feel like I could give a baby such an amazing life, and I want it more than anything, but I can't keep doing this. I can't live like this anymore. This is not living. I feel like a prisoner, and I'm miserable. I'm depressed, and I shouldn't be, because everything else is in my life I'm so grateful for. I have an amazing husband, an amazing family. I just can't help but feel like I'm a failure, and I know that if anyone is going through the same thing, I know that you feel like that too. I know. And everyone always tells me that, it's not in your control. You didn't do anything wrong. Right now, it's really hard to believe. And I wish that I was making this video right now with better news and tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't know that. I don't. All I know is that I just want to be happy. I want to live my life and just enjoy it. And I don't want my life to revolve around this, and I don't want to go through this system and be pumped up with artificial drugs and hormones all the time. I don't want to do that. I don't want to hate my body. I want to love my body. I want to be thankful for it. I really don't know if I'm gonna post this video or if I'm gonna post it, when I'm gonna post it. I don't know. I really don't. It's so hard for me to make this, but if I can help one person, I think it will be worth it. And I know there's going to be some people watching this video, watching for the purpose of just basking in my misery. And that's okay. I really don't care. I'm just tired of living a lie, making you guys believe that life is perfect. And it is what it looks like on social media, because that's the farthest thing from the truth. Everyone has their own battles that they're dealing with. This is mine. If I can use my platform to have a voice and to help someone, then maybe this was my purpose. Maybe, my purpose is not to have a child. Maybe it's just to help someone.
So the video you guys just saw was a video that I filmed in my car almost a year ago. I was severely depressed. I was in a really, really bad place in my life and I have hit rock bottom. After I filmed that video, my husband and I decided to take a break from IVF, and I made a commitment to myself that I would focus on taking care of my health and well-being. So when I did hit rock bottom, I kind of had like a mental shift where I kind of came to terms with the idea that I may never have children of my own, that I may never become a mother. So at that point, I kind of came to terms with it and I accepted it, and I just decided that I would focus on all of the positives in my life. I would focus on my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my family. I would focus on my health. I would focus on my job and the projects that I'm working on and how passionate I am about what I do. So this mental shift started to happen in December of 2018, and January of 2019, my husband and I also decided to get away for a little bit to Miami. For those of you who don't know, my husband and I spend a lot of our winters in Miami because we do have a family condo down there. So we do like to spend a lot of time there, and it's kind of like my home away from home. My happy place is just being by the water, being on the beach, being in the sun. So that was a really reflective time for me. I took several weeks just to focus on myself and focus on my happiness, and that time for me was so significant because I really felt like it helped me come out of my depression and get on a much more positive path. So January 2019, we're in Miami, we're having an amazing time. Vlad and I are so happy that we decided to put IVF behind us, and we decided at this point that we would try again, but we wouldn't put so much pressure on ourselves if it didn't work. We kind of, you know, put it in our minds that if it worked, great. If it didn't, that's okay too. At the end of the day, we decided that we would make the best out of the situation, and if it meant that we would never have kids, then we would just make the best of it and still enjoy life to the fullest, just the two of us. So as our trip to Miami came to an end, I was feeling great. I celebrated my 29th birthday there, and we headed back home to Toronto like at the very end of January or beginning of February. And I was so excited to get back home so I can start working on my projects, and I had all these ideas that I wanted to start working on. And I came home, I started working full force, and I felt like my period was coming on. It was only a day late, but Vlad insisted that I take a pregnancy test. So the next day I decided to take it just to prove to him that I was not pregnant, and to my surprise, the pregnancy test was positive. I honestly could not believe it because it happened so fast. Like my last failed IVF cycle was in November 2018, and then December 2018 we didn't even try at all because I was in such a bad mental state. I just wanted to make sure that I was feeling a lot better. And then January, when we just started trying, was the month that it worked. So of course at this point I was just in shock. I told Vlad, and of course both of us were so excited and in disbelief. And at the very same time, as you can imagine, after everything that we have been through the last few years, we were so nervous and so anxious because it just felt like it was too good to be true. Like, how was it possible that it could happen so quickly? And in my mind, I was already thinking that there's a very high chance that I was gonna lose this pregnancy as well. So when we found out, we decided to keep it a secret until we could get our first ultrasound and confirmed that there was a heartbeat. But to get to that point, I had to be, I think, a minimum of 7 weeks pregnant. And the only way to make sure that your pregnancy is progressing until that point is to track your HCG levels. So the day that I got my positive pregnancy test from the urine test that I took at home, I went to my family doctor to get a blood test just to confirm that I was pregnant, and she did confirm that I was pregnant. And I asked her to give me a lab requisition where I could just come into the lab whenever I wanted to keep checking my own HCG, because we have a system here in Toronto where you can check it online. So that's what I did. I went in every 2 to 3 days, because every 2 to 3 days your HCG is supposed to double in the beginning stages of pregnancy. And I was going to the lab and checking it online at the end of every single day just to make sure that it was going up. And every time I logged in to that website to check my HCG, I had so much anxiety. So I went to the blood lab like every 2 to 3 days until I was 7 weeks pregnant, and thank God my HCG was going up every time I got my blood drawn. Finally, we got to 7 weeks and we were able to see a technician for our first ultrasound, and I was so nervous. I don't know how it is in other countries, but here in Canada, when you come in for your first ultrasound to detect a heartbeat, they don't allow your partner to come into the room with you. You have to be there by yourself until the technician can confirm a heartbeat, and then she brings your partner in. So I was just having flashbacks to the time when I went to my first fetal heartbeat ultrasound on my own, and Vlad was waiting for me in the waiting room, and the technician told me that she couldn't find a heartbeat, and she said that it was likely that I had a blighted ovum. So that memory just kept replaying in my mind, and I was terrified that the same thing was going to happen this time. But to my surprise, the ultrasound technician showed me the screen and she told me that the heartbeat sounded amazing, that it looks like the embryo attached correctly and it's a very strong fetal heartbeat. And I was just in shock. I was crying hysterically. I didn't know what to do with myself because I couldn't believe it. And I kept asking her, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yes, I am sure. You can see it right here. Your baby is doing just fine." So once she confirmed that, I asked her if she could go get my husband. So she went out in the hallway to get Vlad, and Vlad was walking with her in the hallway, and he was asking her, "Is everything okay? Is everything okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, there's this good strong fetal heartbeat." And he was asking her, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And she's like, "Oh my God, not you too." So both of us were just like in such disbelief, obviously. And he came into the room, she showed him the fetal heartbeat, and both of us were just so relieved. Of course, we both knew that we had a long road ahead of us, but it definitely made us feel a lot better about the situation. And we decided that that day we would tell our parents and our siblings about it, and that was it. We decided that we would just keep it between the immediate family for as long as we felt comfortable. And of course, our parents were just over the moon, ecstatic. No one could believe it because it just happened so quickly. And it was honestly just such a crazy feeling, and just a huge sigh of relief for the both of us. So because of my history and because of everything that happened in the past, you guys can probably understand now why I decided not to make any kind of public announcement until I felt comfortable. I was about 5 months pregnant when I announced my pregnancy publicly, because I had no idea which way it was going to go. But with every ultrasound, with every test that we did, I just became more and more confident and less anxious. I have to be completely honest with you guys, the first few months I was absolutely terrified of something happening, and that's why at 5 months and the chances of something happening were super low, I decided to come out, because I just decided I didn't want to go through the rest of my pregnancy with so much anxiety. I just really wanted to enjoy it to the fullest. When you've been through a similar journey that I have been through, you come to appreciate pregnancy and look at it in a completely different way. And I just wanted to enjoy it as much as I possibly could. I really wanted to just let go and allow myself to have that connection with my unborn baby, because I felt like for the entire first trimester, I wasn't really able to do that. I wasn't really allowing myself to do that because I was just so terrified that I would lose the pregnancy. Thank God everything worked out, and after my public announcement, I was finally able to just enjoy my pregnancy and breathe a sigh of relief and just allow myself to have that connection with my baby girl. And as you guys know, the rest of my pregnancy went very, very well. I carried full term. My baby girl was born on October 14th, 2019, and she is just so beautiful. And she's lying in her bassinet right on the floor in front of me, sleeping like a little angel. And she's perfectly healthy. She was born a little bit over 7 pounds. So now that she is here, I feel so much more comfortable talking about this story and sharing this journey with you guys, even though this is probably the hardest video I have ever filmed and the hardest video that I will ever have to put out there. But the reason why I'm doing this is because I really believe that it is going to help so many women going through a similar journey and hopefully give you guys hope. So I wanted to talk about why I believe it finally worked for me. Looking back at my journey and looking back at everything that I went through with all of the fertility doctors and the treatments and the IVF, I personally believe that all of those drugs and medications were kind of preventing those embryos from sticking. I also strongly believe that my mental state had a huge impact on that as well. I really feel like it was kind of blocking things from happening and from growing inside of my uterus. I really believe that until I did the mental work to really get past my depression and get myself into a much better mind space, my body would just reject anything that was put into it. Yes, there were some minor physical things with me that needed to be fixed, like the polyps and the dip in my uterus, but I think in my case the main thing was just getting my mind straight. So I just wanted to put it out there and let you guys know that if any of you are going through a similar journey and really struggling, I know it's easier said than done, but you really need to let go. I've heard so many people tell me this when I was at my lowest low, and I just kept brushing it off because I felt like they didn't understand. When you do hit rock bottom and you do have that mental shift, you kind of just automatically let everything go. And I think that that's when my body and mind kind of clicked, and it was a lot more receptive to allowing things to progress naturally. And another thing I wanted to talk about is IVF and fertility treatments. Even though I know that those things have worked for a lot of other women, it didn't work out for me personally. So if you have resorted to IVF or fertility treatments and you feel like you're kind of beating a dead horse and you're not really getting anywhere with it, try really focusing on your mental health, focusing on taking care of yourself, and you never know, maybe it'll happen naturally for you like it did for me. Sometimes you really just need to take a step back and take a break. I know that it is so much easier said than done. Taking a break for me was such a hard decision to make because it made me feel like it would just take much longer for me to conceive the baby that I was so desperately trying to conceive. I honestly think that sometimes when you force something too much, or if you want something too much, the universe has this funny way of making that thing a lot harder to attain. So sometimes you just need to take a breather, focus on yourself, focus on your health and your well-being, and things will happen when they're meant to happen. And hopefully my story is proof of that for you guys, and I really hope that this is going to give you guys some positive light and positive encouragement. If you're watching this video and you are currently struggling with fertility, I'm sending you so much love and light. I pray that it's gonna work for you, because even though being a mom is the hardest job in the entire world, it is also the best job in the entire world. It is so fulfilling and such a beautiful experience, and I really pray that it is going to work out for you. So that is all I wanted to talk about in today's video. Again, I wanted to say thank you so much for all of the congratulatory wishes and all of the positive encouragement you've been leaving me on my birth story video and also on my Instagram. It means so much to me, and I really feel like this community is kind of coming together and it's becoming a space where we can share our personal experiences with one another, and this is exactly what I wanted to create with my platforms. I wanted to create a community of women who are going through similar journeys and experiences where we can help one another and inspire one another. So please keep up the positive positive vibes. If you are currently struggling with fertility and you feel comfortable enough sharing your story, leave me a comment down below. I would love to read about it. And I'm sure many other women would love to read about it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your love and support. As always, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me, and I will see you in my next one.
Say hi, world. My name is Ari.
Oh my god.
Never held a newborn before.
You're doing great, Papa.
Got no boob, man. Stop trying to find it.
Who's ready for their first doctor's visit? We don't quite fit into 0 to 3 months. I'm kind of swimming at the moment, but hopefully that will be fixed soon. Ari, are you holding your own pacifier? Oh, Mama.
Any other hiccups? Ari.
Ой, колючий. Папочка колючий.
Колючий.